Welcome back, YouTubers, to another British Fist Q&A with me, Mr. Parker, and this guy sitting next to me. It's none other than Raw is NJ!
What's
Or
up?
should I say, Raw is British Fist!
Ka-ching!
Like I said, it's time for a Q&A. If you have any questions, please put them down in the comment section below. And we're going to move straight on to a bunch of questions by Renegade Man 83. Starting this Q&A off, unlike the typical Raw with an authority promo. How do you feel about ROH being broadcast on Destination America?
It's a step up from where they were originally.
I was going to say, it's good for ROH. I'm not that bothered, but if it would get some more eyes on ROH, fair enough. And it's probably Destination America's way, as we're going to move on to in the next question, of phasing out TNA potentially and using ROH as someone that could probably bring in the same amount of eyes but for less amount of money.
I think when it comes to ROH, they needed this because from what we witnessed, their streaming
Sinclair was
the
awful.
quality was doing no good. So to go to something that's out there and solid, yeah, it will do them a lot of justice.
It's win-win for ROH. I mean, ROH got the best deal out of this, out of Destination America, ROH and TNA. ROH got by far the best deal, which leads us on to the next question. What are your thoughts on the rumors of Destination America cancelling TNA? I think the problem here is that I think Destination America actually had some high expectations for TNA because they got over 1 million viewers consistently on Spike TV. Um, and I can't say I'm surprised because they gave Destination America the leverage by allowing them to have a clause in there that they could have other wrestling shows on. It just seems like it's another TV network that TNA don't really have much control over, or it made it look like they did, but they never actually did. So I'm not really surprised that Destination America's possibly cancelling TNA, especially considering the ratings that the viewership the shows have been getting
Well,
since they've been on there.
I've not been keeping too up to date, so I know this is an old question. So maybe they found a way of stabilizing their time on
I haven't
Destination
heard of it,
America.
so
But if they do go at the same time, as much as I have gone off TNA, I think it's sad that TNA are not finding a solid place now to stay. But at the end of the day, if TNA are having all these faults, then something needs to be done to prevent that, which is all down to TNA's management.
you know the really surprising thing is that TNA got over 1 million viewers when they were on Spike TV. I mean, if you said to a TV network, yes, you got a program here that's going to guarantee you 1 million viewers if you advertise it correctly, you'd think a lot of TV stations would bite the hand off. And I think if it wasn't wrestling, they probably would, but because it is wrestling, they don't. And they don't particularly want that on their networks, which is why they've had to go to Destination America, which is unfortunate. But that's the business world for you. What are your thoughts on NXT Unstoppable? I did watch this. I didn't do a review. It's kind of the first show I watched and didn't review, which kind of started this new trend of mine where I just don't really want to review NXT anymore. Not because I didn't like the show or anything. It's just that my time is better spent elsewhere personally, and the video views were getting really really shit to the point where I didn't want to do it anymore. I thought Becky Lynch and Sasha Banks had a very very good match. Is it as good as Sasha Banks versus Bailey at the latest show? Who knows? I think this was where Finn Balor won the belts as well. No, that was in. Sorry, that was not there. That was somewhere else. That was where you had Samoa Joe debuting in NXT. It was a good show. It was. I'll just leave it at that because I don't really want to give too many thoughts on it. Thoughts on Samoa Joe's debut in NXT? Where do you think they'll be heading after a feud of Owens? I mean, I thought the debut was. I mean, they kept it simple. Okay, it was a little bit like, all they did was stare down. I mean, you knew they were going to probably feud going. I thought they were going to feud going into the next takeover, but that never happened. It ended up being, I believe, it ended up being Finn Balor instead. So I was a little bit surprised they didn't take this into takeover personally, with it being set up the way it did. But Samoa Joe has taken more of a backseat now, and I think that's kind of the way it should be with Samoa Joe. But you can bring him to the forefront when you need him to.
I felt slightly disappointed. As much as I'm glad Samoa Joe has now stepped up from TNA into the WWE, I felt his debut, as much as stare down between two big guys is sending a message, the message didn't, in my opinion, didn't follow through as strongly as I was hoping for. Somewhere down the line, maybe it'll be redone, but I'm just happy that Samoa Joe stepped up.
John Lee, do you guys think WWE should do a Feast or Fired briefcase or something similar to TNA to make it more interesting instead of just focusing on a cash in for the WWE title? While the Feast and Fire briefcase concept, did add an element of unpredictability to TNA, I don't think WWE would ever take a TNA concept and make it their own, because they would have to acknowledge that it was TNA's concept first, and they were, and it would also acknowledge that TNA were in some way innovators, and WWE would take the idea.
If anything, the one thing I would do, because I really did like that concept, the one thing I would do, and I'm pretty sure it might be the best idea going forward, is the King of the Ring winner. I could say you can go for the main championship, but maybe the King of the Ring should be more for the mid card or something, and the winner of that gets to choose what belt. I was just thinking they use what they've got. Like, King of the Ring means nothing right now. So if the King of the Ring can somehow equalize them to getting a championship shot, that might help. But of course, I would choose the main championship. That's why I thought only use the mid card wrestlers.
What is your opinion on the Hornswoggle being Vince McMahon's illegitimate son storyline? Absolutely freaking god awful. It's one of those things that WWE do to try and catch you off guard that makes no fucking sense, and the whole storyline just reeked of shit.
As much as it's the throw guard thing, I do think it was more of Mr. Anderson's injury / departures rumor thing going round.
Yeah, they could have done better than Hornswoggle, surely. I mean, for shock value, okay, but surely they could have done better than Hornswoggle. I mean, if you're gonna give the Vince McMahon's son thing to a wrestler, give it to someone who's gonna be on the up and up.
I think if the Mr. Anderson thing weren't to follow through, they should somehow not cut the storyline short, but maybe not have found out who it was, or maybe find out that it weren't someone there. I just think they should have cut it off instead of going down a comedy angle.
The better thing to do would have been to say his illegitimate son was Triple H, and that somehow Stephanie McMahon was Triple H's sister or something. That would have been quite funny. I'd have definitely watched that. That would have been hilarious to see the tension between Triple H and Stephanie. Moving on. Can Hideo Itami succeed in NXT? Well, he's in the right brand, because NXT is for the hardcore fans. They're going to love their wrestling, and that's exactly what Hideo Itami is. He's a very good wrestler. Character, promos, storytelling, maybe, but at least he's on the right brand to be able to show his strengths, which is wrestling. So I think he can succeed in NXT. Main roster, though, different story, in my opinion.
I think because it happened okay to the primetime players to begin with before the thing happened. But I think a manager he's still good wrestling and everything, but I think someone that's gonna push him to where he deserves to be, or the eyes of his manager think he should be. So I think possibly giving him a manager to continue his push.
When do you see Sami Zayn heading to the main roster? I mean, he's already had his debut on the main roster. He's got injured, so you have to imagine that he will probably come back to the main roster. I mean, the original plans were for Sami Zayn to come onto the main roster, and then kind of got replaced by Kevin Owens. I wouldn't be surprised if he heads back to NXT for a little bit, and then maybe they'll bring him into the WWE roster a bit further down the line. Sami Zayn is one of those characters where I don't think you can just debut him and without any momentum. You've got to give him some momentum first before you can really have him on the roster properly.
I think the injury has slapped him back down. I think he's going to be back onto NXT, having a few matches on there, and when they feel that he's ready to try again, I don't think it'll be fair to put him straight onto Raw again unless he starts with the lower card wrestlers, but I think NXT is a safe place for now.
Mr. Parkin, if NXT weren't that popular, would you still watch wrestling? Well, firstly, I'm not watching NXT anymore. And secondly, no, I wouldn't, because I just watching Raw and wrestling in general just is not fun anymore. And NXT was fun, but it just got to the point where I was watching it for an hour, and then I did a review on it, and I was up late that night, and I had to get up early tomorrow morning, and I had other things to do, and it just got to a point where I just couldn't do it anymore. So if it wasn't that popular, I still wouldn't be watching wrestling. I mean, if it wasn't that popular as it was, I wouldn't be watching wrestling still. I just even if it became the biggest thing in the world, I still wouldn't be watching wrestling because it would take more than one brand for me to start watching wrestling again. Really would. Alberto Bravo, do you see Baron Corbin as the next Roman Reigns? No, I see where you're coming from though. Big guy, typical WWE build, but Roman Reigns has a lot more to his character than Baron Corbin, in my opinion.
I think Corbin is going to need,
Big work.
yes, a lot of that going on. When Roman Reigns straight away, almost from the set go, you knew that Roman Reigns was going to be Vince's moneymaker.
I mean, when I saw Roman Reigns, I mean, when I saw Leaki, that was terrible. But when I saw Roman Reigns on the main roster as this kind of tweener slash heel on the NXT roster, you instantly saw charisma. You instantly saw something there which made you think, damn, you know, this guy could be something in the future. You know, with Baron Corbin, the guy's got a great finisher. He's got a great look. He's quite big. He's got that going for him, but he's going to need to do a lot more to be able to win fans over as a scene, because even Roman Reigns is struggling to win fans over right now for some godly unknown reason. But there you go. What is your opinion with Alexa Bliss's pairing with Blake and Murphy? You know, I think it's quite good for Blake and Murphy because I think although they were good wrestlers, they were quite bland. So I think pairing them with an attractive lady as Alexa Bliss is definitely a good thing for the tag team, especially as at the time they were facing Enzo Amore and Big Cass, who had Carmella in their corner. So from that perspective, it made sense. And I think they are one of those kind of teams that do need some kind of manager to get, you know, more out of them and, you know, to really try and enhance their characters, what little they have of them right now.
As much as thanks to WWE's recent bookings and managers stuff, having a manager with the tag team hasn't really worked for me for a while now. But on NXT, something that's going to bring up a diva, something that's going to bring up a tag team, give them spotlight in NXT, great. But when it comes to the main roster, I'm not sure how WWE's booking of it's going to continue.
Do you feel Carmella is out of place with the fans as she is a natural heel and is not over with the fans compared to Enzo Amore and Colin Cassidy? It's a very legitimate question, that is, because she is more of a natural heel in my opinion. But because she's associated with Enzo Amore and Colin Cassidy, she is basically a face. But at some point down the line, they'll branch her off. They have to, and I think she will stand out a lot more as a heel. You know, just from it just seems like she is much more of a natural heel when she's on the mic, when she's in the ring. Just her general demeanor and look just looks more heelish. Do you have anything to add to that? No. Okay. Can the Lucha Dragons be more successful? One of the benefits of going first. Can the Lucha Dragons be more successful in the main roster and replace the Usos as the next face of the tag team division? I never had too much, you know, I never really thought they were going to be a success in the WWE. I just thought their debut was random, was a way of getting a pop. And I think it's kind of shown since then as the Lucha Dragons really haven't done all that much on the roster, despite the fact they don't have all that many fucking tag teams. So no, I never thought for 1 second they'd be successful on the main roster. Did you ever think Vince McMahon was going to push a Hispanic tag team for the tag belts? No.
I do enjoy watching the Lucha Dragons in the ring. I'm not a strong supporter. That's mainly because of the WWE's usage of them since they came to the main roster. But replacing the Usos are always going to have their fan base due to family and their style in the ring. I think if the Lucha Dragons were to suddenly get concentration and a push, I think going up there with the Usos could be a possibility.
And one of the Usos is injured now as well, so you don't have the Usos as a tag team. So you got, could get them involved, but no. RFV089. Mr. Parkin, what are your thoughts on the recent incidents involving the FBI arresting FIFA officials for taking bribes in the region of 150 million in total? I think this just shows all along that we were all right in knowing that FIFA are a corrupt organization and that Sepp Blatter's leadership of FIFA has been a total farce since day one. So I'm not really surprised to see this, and I think it's fantastic that we finally brought something alike. You know, it's criminal activity in the world's, in the biggest in the biggest football organization on earth and the main one. So I'm not surprised, and they got their comeuppance. That's all I'll say about that. Do you like the fact that Samoa Joe's kept his name in WWE? Yes. I really did think they would change his name, but I'm glad they didn't because it means that fans that used to watch TNA that maybe have elevated themselves to NXT because that's kind of what they like would notice him, and the name power there for Samoa Joe is quite a good one, especially in a brand which is really surrounding itself with independent talent.
I personally think the name change, yes, it's to protect their name, their superstar, their wrestler. But I think the wrestler should get to choose when they go to different company if they want to change their name or if they want to keep their name. Because bringing in big names that were big for TNA and stuff to Raw, SmackDown, NXT, and you change their name, it's like that was fine as it was. That was who they were. That's who fans know them as. Bringing them in, yes, you're still going to know who they are, but the name change, I think, plays a huge part in who they originally were.
Thoughts on Dave Meltzer's article claiming that TNA is going to be cancelled by Destination America? We've given our thoughts on the actual possibility of the cancellation by Destination America. I don't know where Dave Meltzer got his source from for this, but again, it's one of those things that you read and you think, oh, I'm not really surprised. So, I can't really blame him for reporting it. I mean, if he did have a legitimate source in some way, then I don't blame him for reporting it. And as for them being cancelled potentially, well, we already gave our thoughts on it. I mean, at this present moment in time, unless you're a part of a website named TNA Asylum or something, you're just not really going to care at this moment in time. 300,000 viewers or something they're getting now, ridiculous. Mr. Parkin, what are your thoughts on Sepp Blatter resigning? About fucking time. That's all I'll say. Even though he's not technically resigned, he's going to resign in a few months' time. So he still has a few more fucking months to corrupt the FIFA before they fucking bring someone new in. Good fucking riddance, Sepp Blatter. In light of Steve Austin's podcast with Paul Heyman, do you want to see Austin versus Lesnar, and do you think it will happen? No, I do not think it will happen. I think Austin's health is just not good enough for him to face someone like Lesnar. It would be a big match. I'm sure a lot of people would want to watch it, and it would really suit this WrestleMania 32 they're doing, where they're trying to fill out a 100,000-seat stadium. But I don't think for one second it's going to happen. I think it was just them playing with us, to be honest with you. I mean, you saw them both go into promo mode. It was obvious.
I think this is really sad because I've asked this before, but what big names do WWE have left to bring back as a special attraction? It's down to Austin, really. Mick Foley, if he gets into better shape and wants to come back, but Austin, even though his health's not there either, he's still a big name yet to come back. So I think it's sad that it's likely not going to happen because there's no one else. But we have to take in consideration, especially with the WWE's concentration on health and protecting themselves from lawsuits. Austin will have to stay in podcast and whatever else he's doing.
Just use his mouth rather than use his fists. I'm going to list a couple of current WWE guys, and I want you to say from lowest to highest on who WWE values more.
Ooh.
There's 5 people here.
Okay.
We've got Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, Dean Ambrose, Ryback, and Bray Wyatt. Do you want me to go first?
Yes.
I think WWE values Roman Reigns first. I think he's the guy that WWE see as their poster child going forward after John Cena. I think secondly they value Bray Wyatt, because he's been a guy that they've developed themselves. He's got wrestling family. We know. I mean, he's semi-main event at WrestleMania last year. They've not quite got it right with Bray Wyatt, but there's been signs there that WWE really do fancy this guy as like a top heel or maybe even a babyface. I think next on that list is, I think it's a tie between Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose. I mean, they're showing a lot of faith in Seth Rollins right now. They've had him face Brock Lesnar, John Cena. Now they're having him face Sting at Night of Champions. They had him cash in at the main event of WrestleMania. So they obviously see something in him. They're probably grooming him for a feud with Triple H. They've had him involved with John Stewart on WWE TV. So they obviously have some faith in him if they're going to do that. I think he's slightly ahead of Ryback. I think at some point down the line, WWE are going to give Ryback the push that he probably should have got when he first came on the scene. and hopefully they'll do it properly. And I think the fifth one is Dean Ambrose, simply because while Dean Ambrose is a very good character in my opinion, he's not the kind of guy that I can see WWE really pushing to the pinnacle unless the waves were so high for a Dean Ambrose push that they had to. That's the only way I can see Dean Ambrose getting it, because they have to do it, otherwise the fans will riot.
I think when it comes to my choices, I'm not sure if I'd have Roman Reigns first. The reason I say that is because at this moment in time, unless he turns heel, I'm not going to put him first. 'Cause I think he's not really. He's there, he's on TV, he's getting matches, but he's going from Royal Rumble, WrestleMania to tag team. You know, with Dean Ambrose to go against the Wyatt family. That's continuing now. And I just think, even though Seth Rollins has not had everyone's liking of being a champion, he's still up there and he's been pushed, seems to be better than Roman Reigns. So I'm going to put, for now, Seth Rollins as my number one.
So who? The question is who, from lowest to highest, who WWE values more? Not who you value more, but who WWE values more.
I'm going to still put Seth Rollins over Roman Reigns for now. I don't think Roman Reigns. Yes, we've all predicted he's Vince McMahon's favourite, but he's gone from Royal Rumble, WrestleMania to flipping tag teaming because maybe he's not working out. Maybe their ideas, the changes they gave him, haven't worked.
Possibly due to the fans, I think.
So I don't think he's number one right now. Eventually, it's gonna happen, I'm sure, because he's got Vince McMahon's written all over him. So Seth, Roman Reigns, I think will come second. Bray Wyatt, Ryback, I'm questioning because he's had numerous attempts to be pushed and something's happened. But over Dean Ambrose, which is sad because I think Dean Ambrose is very likable, especially when he beat John Cena in merchandise selling. But I'll put Ryback and then Dean Ambrose.
Okay, that's been another Q&A. We're going to see you again next week, same time, same place, answering the same old outdated questions, no doubt. See you next week.
And this has been a lot of fun. We've been answering your questions, and please continue sending more and more and more in the comment section below so we can keep this going, because if you want to continue seeing the British Fist, it's down to you guys. And thank you very much for watching. Until next time, hasta la vista! That's not what Jericho says.